Good evening, everyone. How are we for volume? Back row, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear. I think we need more volume. How about in the back row, can you hear? Yes, very good. All right, we're all set. It's my privilege to welcome Jill Rogers. She is the CEO of JRC LLC and a graduate of the Catholic University of America. So welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Jill has more than 20 years of federal government consulting experience and she'll be sharing that wisdom today. But she started her career at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company, and that gave her an attitude and a spirit of service that has carried right through her experience and is a major focus of her company. So we'll talk about that as well. Jill is an ICF certified coach, a member of the Women for Change coaching community, and a hockey mom of 3 boys, who I'll introduce in a moment. And she's committed to learning something new every day. That's you, not the boys, or both. That's on there. Very good. So Jill's 3 sons, Danny, Harrison, and Bowen, are here. Stand, say hi. There you go. So these are the hockey players. So. And Jill's husband, Dan. Welcome. And Jill's mom, Pat, at Masters, is here too. So welcome to the whole family. Welcome to Jill. So the way we'll do this, we've done this way before. Sometimes you've seen this, students. Well, I have a few questions for Jill, and then we'll open up the floor to you and to folks online as well. So you started your business not very long after graduation. So tell us how that came about. So from graduation to starting the business, tell us that story.
So it was, can you all hear me? My good phone? All right. So it was 1994, and I was living right down the street at the Cloisters, and I graduated with a degree in politics, and not really sure where I was going to go with that, what I was going to do. I had a feeling I didn't want to be a public servant, but I didn't know what the next step was. I also had a strange desire to get a break from this area. So it was 1994, the Olympics were coming to Atlanta in 1996. And so I decided to go down there and check it out. That's kind of my personality. I'd never been there, I didn't have any friends there, I didn't have a job there. My brother's college graduation gift to me was to pack me up and move me down there. So I did that and suddenly found an apartment. And it's funny, as I was getting ready to talk about this, I remember looking for a job when there was no Indeed and there was no Monster. And it was the newspaper that we would get, circle the ads, and I would circle them and send cover letters and go on these interviews. And I applied for a job as a banquet manager at the Ritz-Carlton in Buckhead in Atlanta. And after many other job interviews, and now that I've worked in the hotel company, I understand how I was grossly unqualified for that job. But I walked in there anyway and had a conversation with a woman from HR, because there was this much of a description of that job. And I had a conversation with the woman, the HR manager, and she said, well, you're not really qualified for this, but I have another opportunity for you. I had a work-study job and had some administrative skills, so I ended up as the administrative assistant to the assistant hotel manager. And it was at Ritz-Carlton, there was a lot of answering guest complaints and things like that. But it landed me a spot in the executive offices, and I was there in this massive company that I was sitting next to, kind of the quality advisor, and the CFO shop was up there, and the comptroller, and they were Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award winner. And suddenly I was thrown into this enormous company with this enormous set of values and standards and the way that they did business. And it was just such an eye-opening experience. I didn't know kind of where I was going to go from there, but I knew that I had landed in someplace special. And I really appreciated all that they had to offer. And a lot of it kind of stayed with me from then on. It helped that they had a very rigid quality process and a very rigid orientation process, and they kind of brought you into it, but I knew it was something special. So I did that for a few years and missed this area very much. You all love living here like I do now, I'm sure you can imagine. So I moved back to Northern Virginia and settled there and have been here ever since. Had a few jobs after I left Ritz-Carlton, still trying to figure out what was next. Then my resume was starting to look a little too active for me, so I wanted to figure out what was next for me. I was thinking about grad school, but that didn't happen. I knew I wanted to get in a large firm where I could learn a lot of different things, be exposed to different people, different opportunities, and I was hoping that that would eventually lead me to graduate school. And I was at a party with my brother. My mother loves this part of the story. My brother and I, he was working on Capitol Hill at the time. We chose to be roommates after fighting nonstop growing up. We chose to be roommates for a couple of years while he lived here. And we were at a party, and I met a woman, and she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I do this now, but this is what I want to do. And I want to work at a big firm, and da-da-da." And she said, "Well, I work at PricewaterhouseCoopers. Why don't you send me your resume?" And I did. And I started working there on March 1st of 1999, and I remember the date because that's where I met my husband in orientation at the Fairfax office. We both started there on that date. And so that was it for me. That was everything I was looking for, a large firm, a lot of projects, a lot of different areas that I could get into. I brought a lot of writing and communications expertise, so I was put in their organization and change management and strategy kind of division at that time. You'll find a lot of these companies reorganized. At that time, it was organization, change strategy. I did a lot of strategic communications work to start out there, and it was a combination of my experience and natural talents and interests in doing that. And it just kind of, went from there. I was there for 3 or 4 years. IBM bought the company, or bought the federal government consulting practice. And that was not quite the right fit for me. So I started looking around and ended up at Booz Allen, which is another large federal government contractor in this area. And I was there for a few years. And then I had boy number one and realized that I didn't want to go back to that big firm environment anymore. I wanted to focus on doing good work for interesting clients and helping them solve their problems. And I've always loved the client work part of my job. And I really wanted to do that. And then I wanted to kind of figure out motherhood and what it was going to be like to raise these guys. And so that's when I incorporated myself as a 1099. Hence my company name is my name, which is still kind of strange because I'm the least egocentric person I think you'll meet. And but it was a domain name that was available, kind of made sense at the time. So I was a subcontractor to a large company working at Defense Intelligence Agency. And one thing led to another after several years, and some requirements came together. I bid on them, got my first prime contract, and it just kind of took off from there. So it was a series of a lot of hard work and having an opportunity knock and being open to hearing the knock and deciding to take the chance and go with it. And the past 15 years, JRC just had its 15th anniversary in August of this year. And so the past 15 years has been a lot of seizing the opportunity when it presents itself. And that's how I got here today. So we are 12 employees, $3.5 million annually, 9 prime contracts, 4 contracts, and still learning something new every day from work and from home. So that's kind of the story. And I'm honored to be asked to come and talk to you all about it.
So Busch, PwC, Ritz-Carlton, each of these has a fairly distinctive culture, right? Which of those, I think you're going to say Ritz-Carlton, but give us a sense of which of those cultures affected you most, and what's the sort of culture that you are forming, or you have formed over these 15 years in your firm?
Mm-hmm. Yes, culture is very different. The most stark difference for me was I made the mistake of assuming that 2 large consulting firms in the same industry, in the same space, PricewaterhouseCoopers and Booz Allen, would have a similar culture. So when I left one to go to the other, that was a big learning experience for me. PricewaterhouseCoopers was a very flat organization. We were very empowered with, they kind of told you the rules of engagement when you started. This is how billable you need to be. This is your utilization target. These are the kind of clients you should work with. This is your resource manager. If you're going to look to them to find your next project, you're not doing something right. So they kind of laid it all out for you, and I responded very well to that. That was, as long as you told me the rules of engagement, I knew how to be successful, and that fit my personality. Booz Allen was a little bit different. And of course, these firms have reorganized many times since then. But at that time, it was, they were very team focused, and you belonged to a team that you worked on their projects and supported that leadership, and that's kind of where you stayed. And I was not used to that. And I had been in 3 or 4 years in an environment that I was able to create my own opportunities. So that was culture shock. And the striking part for me was that I didn't ask the right questions ahead of time. So I knew that that culture was not necessarily going to be my fit for the long term. At that time, we were trying to have a family, and so it was not necessarily my priority, but I was disappointed in myself that I didn't ask the right questions ahead of time. You know, I'm smarter than this, I should have known that. But, you know, sometimes you can't, in the moment when you make those kinds of assessments and you think this is the right opportunity, the clients seem the same, the work seems the same, the people seem the same, how could it be that different? But it was very different for me. So that was a big learning experience. But the flat nature of PwC is definitely something that I've brought to my business. It helps that my business is so small. We can definitely be a flat organization. All of my employees can call me or text me anytime, and they have that accessibility to me, being the smaller business. But that's also kind of one thing that I sell to them during the interview process. I don't have an infinite supply of resources that I can offer them, such as the big firms do. And I certainly am trying to recruit and retain the same top talent as my teammates, which are many of the large businesses in town, and other small business competitors. So I offer my employees, you know, the chance to have access to me and learn what it's like to make the sausage and what the decisions I make and the pressures that we go through and give them that accessibility to the business owner, which for a lot of them is really beneficial. At least that's what they tell me. But I would say that the things that I've tried to instill in JRC that have left over from Ritz-Carlton have a lot to do with their basics. It's interesting for such a large company that has so many variety of different career paths there. They kind of boil it down to a very simple set of basics, and everyone carries them around on their Credo card in their pocket. And it comes down to, you know, we're ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. And that's ultimately kind of a lot of what I believe how we treat our clients. The Ritz-Carlton also believes that you know, they're a business to anticipate guests' needs, and I tell my team all the time, we're constantly anticipating clients. What is it that they're looking for next? We're here to solve problem A, but what might be the value add that we can provide them about problem B, or have they considered problem C, and what could be coming next that we've seen in other organizations? So always trying to anticipate their needs. And then probably the most significant one is, and I remember this distinctly from being at the Ritz-Carlton in Atlanta, the president of the hotel company at the time, this was years ago before Marriott bought into the company, was a gentleman named Horst Schulze. And he, our hotel was attached to the Ritz-Carlton's corporate offices. So the most senior people in the company used to wander around the back of the house. We had an employee cafeteria that everyone from the most senior folks in the organization down to the most junior all ate together. And we're very accessible. That was the flattest organization structure, I think, that could possibly exist. And he used to say, you know, we're not selling hotel rooms. There are hundreds of hotel rooms within a mile here in Atlanta that are the same quality and the same caliber, the same number of stars that we have. We are selling service. We are selling an experience. And that has stuck with me. My company we're the services industry. We're not selling widgets. We're not making things. We're selling a client service experience. We're selling people. We're selling a solution. And then we're selling the highest quality service that we possibly can and the highest levels of professionalism. So that's what keeps them coming back. That's how the business grows organically. That's how small business succeeds. And that's kind of what that's what I have done.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's reflect on the industry that you're sort of operating in, the sort of government contracting field. Give us a sense of what that is like today. And also, some of our students here might be interested in that, going into that field themselves. What would you say to somebody starting out in government contracting now?
Yeah, it's a great industry in this area. It's very, very stable. The government gets appropriations every year, and while the mission sometimes changes, while the priorities change with administration, by and large, it's a very stable industry here. There's a lot of different places you can specialize, either in a different functional area or a specific functional area, IT or finance or something like that. And then you can also specialize in different clients and stay with the same client, the Department of Defense or the intelligence community or something on the civil side. So there's a tremendous amount of diversity. There's also the underlying guide to all of this is the Federal Acquisition Regulation for all its pros and cons. We are bound by a set of very clearly defined rules. Sometimes you have to read them several times to kind of understand what they're saying, but that's kind of the nature of the acquisition regulation. But we're guided by a certain number of rules. So again, that appeals to me. Back to my, I like to know the rules of engagement, and it may appeal to some of you. It's definitely a diverse industry. It's pretty stable, and there's a lot of diverse opportunities for client problems, which I also enjoy. It's been more than 15 years, 20 years, but 15 as a small business, and it's a great opportunity to learn. It's a very big industry here. You can work for a small business, you can work for a large business, different clients. That there's a lot that it has to offer. On the pro side, there's definitely some cons to it. The FAR can be quite challenging. I understand from people on the commercial side that the amount of hours that we spend writing proposals for the federal government is dramatically different on the commercial side. So it's definitely a time investment to jump through their hoops, but I have found it to be very worthwhile.
How did you find the jump from big company to running your own? You became an entrepreneur. Clearly, it's working and you like it, but how would you characterize those different experiences?
So when I first started, I was just an independent contractor. And I thought I would just kind of go to the client site and do my thing, bill my hours, and submit my invoice, and that would be it. And kind of the more I networked and listened and kind of talked to other small businesses while I was on the client side, I started to realize that all the things that we used to do at the big firm, small businesses have to do them as well. It's just on a smaller scale. Because again, we're all governed by the Federal Acquisition Regulation. So things like bidding on contracts and entering your time every day to stay DCAA compliant, and just all the different things that were ingrained in me at the big firm, we're still doing them at my company. I'm just doing them. We don't have a lot of people that do them. I'm doing them. And a small numbers of our team, we don't actually have a whole division that takes care of this compliance issues. We have to do a lot of that. But everything that was happening in the large firm environment, it were the same kind of rules of engagement for a small business. So when the client came to me and said, we'd like to get to you directly, we've got this set of requirements that we'd like you to bid on, I thought, I think I can do this. It was daunting for sure. I was bidding against large businesses and other companies that had done this year after year. And at that time, it was just me. And I did have my husband, who has stayed in the same industry, but has been in a large firm. So I shouldn't say it was just me, but it's still just me. And I put together the proposal and won the work. And with that, got a facilities clearance, hired my first employee. And then all the large businesses started to notice me as a potential teaming partner. And I started joining some of their teams, and it just kind of took off from there. And suddenly it was kind of a whirlwind, but I stopped for a minute and was kind of like, wow, I'm doing this. This is really happening. And then I was signing subcontracts with Accenture and Booz Allen, and it just pretty fast, and took advantage of the opportunity, and then kind of looked back and was like, wow, did that really just happen? Yeah.
Now, all the questions I've asked you so far, the students will know I've asked these kind of questions before. But the next question I have never asked before. So last year, your husband came to work for you. What is that like? Maybe I should ask him as well. What is it like having being your husband's boss?
So yeah, it's not a role I anticipated years ago, but it's been interesting. And yes, he does work for me. I would say we work together, but he tends to correct me and say, especially for the boys and for others, that yes, he is the chief operating officer, and the way that our company is set up. Yes, he does work for me. But yeah, the timing was right. Dan was a partner in a global consulting firm, and he was leaving there right before the pandemic. And we had experienced a little bit of a surge kind of right before that. so again, the opportunity was right for him to join and kind of bring a lot of the large firm processes to the small business and try to help us navigate scaling, which we did successfully for. And then, of course, during the pandemic, when we were all stuck together, it was really hard too. So a lot of different circumstances went into that. But while it's been different than when we worked together 25 years ago with PricewaterhouseCoopers, it's been a very good different, and that we bring both so much more to the table.
Thanks for that. But I think this is one of the reasons we wanted you to come here is so many of our students, particularly women, are looking for role models, examples. So you're a successful entrepreneur, you're a successful mom, the kids are smiling, happy, healthy, flourishing, successful marriage. You seem to have it all. Congratulations. What tips can you offer? Because it's a busy world out there, and these things are all big challenges, right? And you seem to be managing them well. What advice would you offer?
Well, I outsource as much as I can. Yes, to be honest, I haven't been to the grocery store in a long time. Amazon Fresh, and I kind of duke it out on my porch at least once or twice a week. But in all seriousness, I do let go of the things that used to really kind of wind me up. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to get any more time in my day as they get older and need more time, and as the business gets bigger and needs more time. I have to figure out a way to make do in the same number of hours that we all have. And so a lot of times that's letting things go. I don't really cook. I kind of assemble meals on the run. That's kind of the biggest thing that I do. They're all playing hockey. We're at the rink every night of the week. And so I used to criticize myself for that. You're supposed to expose your children to all these different tastes and foods, so they grow up with a palate. My kids are happy to eat plain pasta and chicken nuggets any night of the week, and they're healthy, and it gives them fuel to go out to practice. And I let that go a while ago. So if they don't grow up with a very advanced palate, sorry, maybe you're on your own to figure that out. But that was one thing that I let go of. I mean, you read a lot of books on parenting and early things, and you think you're supposed to be doing these things. And I'm pretty type A, and so I had to kind of pick and choose my battles and let stuff go. And that was one that I'm definitely glad that I let go of. It's maybe a little bit easier to handle it at 6 o'clock at night. But figuring out those things that are most important and that are worth the priority time. So I never miss a back to school night with that. Sometimes I miss parent teacher conferences because I figure if it's really bad, they're going to find me anyway. They're going to want to talk about my kid, which they do. But I was talking to somebody the other night, and I mentioned how I had gone to Danny's back to school night at Gonzaga, and they said, "How did you fit that in? This is I haven't been to enough of those yet." I'm like, "Well, I got to keep doing it. Got to meet the teachers. That's a priority for me." And as much as my weeks get busy and sometimes I work into the evening, carving out time to do those things are still important. The food, not so much. Calories are calories, but the relationships with teachers and finding out what exactly they're learning and what high school is like. This is the first time we could go to the last year. So figuring out what's important to you and making that happen and letting some of the other stuff go. And some people say, not to sweat the small stuff. I've always sweated the small stuff. So some stuff that I'm letting go is big stuff, but just coming to terms with that's really kind of the only way to have what's important to you, which in essence is kind of having it all. I have everything that I need that's important for my success, and because I do get that question a lot. How do you keep it all going? And I think defining what your all is kind of the first step. And my all does not include cooking.
Thank you. Tell us about the role of faith in your life, your family's life.
Yes. So I was raised Catholic school, Catholic upbringing, Catholic mom, Catholic grandmom, very close to my grandparents. And my mother and my grandmother were very adamant about faith-based education. And my brother was an altar boy, and we were just very active in the parish. My Polish grandmother was always saying novenas, as there was novenas in St. Jude, so there were multiple novenas going at any one time. So not only did I grow up believing in the power of prayer, I also grew up thinking that everything was a hopeless case. But yeah, but faith was everything growing up, and it's everything who I am at my core. I have leverage is not the right word. I have leaned on it. I have needed it. I have used faith to get me through some difficult personal and professional times. And the power of prayer has always been something that's been very prominent in my upbringing. And my mom kind of, pieced it all together with values, right? So that's why it was so important to you. And my grandmother was a single mom. My mom was a single mom, and raised us in Catholic school. It wasn't always easy, financially and otherwise, and always valued education above everything else. And so that's what I'm hoping to provide for my kids too. My mom was also a working mom, and so she was an incredible role model who got her master's degree while she was still a single mom working and sitting my brother and I at private school, and so I grew up with that as an amazing role model. Faith-based education, faith at home, mass together on Sunday, shared values, similar values for education and hard work, and the power of prayer. Who I still am, and how I'm hopefully I'm raising all of you that way. Maybe I'll even convert my husband, who is not Catholic, but still is along for the ride now.
All these people praying for you now. There you go. All right. Not long then. So, thank you. Well, let's open up the room for questions. We may have questions online over Zoom. Questions in the room. We have a couple of roving mics, I think. So if you have a question, just raise a hand, and we will bring a mic to you. We got one in the middle.
I actually would like to hear from your husband. So I would like to hear how it is to work with your wife, but also more so how you support her in her job, not only professionally, but as a mother. And yeah, especially since you're not Catholic, that makes this even more interesting. Where that strength comes from to like persevere in both of your vocations together, in raising a family, but also in your job.
Have a mic?
Yeah, put up. Is it on?
Yep.
So I've got hearing aids, so I can't hear me. It is my input on the spot. No, it's been. I think we've been. I think partnership from the very beginning. We, met in orientation 25 years ago. We kind of made all of our decisions. I think. Both family and career-wise together, and have really enabled each other. When I was making my push to become a partner in a big consulting firm, she was supporting me the whole way. She encouraged me to go to graduate school and get a business degree. And then, we just, I think, inspired each other. So when I left my large firm, and we had the opportunity to come together, it was a chance for her to really support me even further. And so it's been a symbiotic partnership the whole way along. We, from a family perspective, we try to put our kids first. They all play hockey. I coach hockey a little bit, so I kind of take the hockey part of the duties and stuff, and help these guys practice many times. But then as we go through this, we've relied on Hockey Family, and our friends as our oldest one has, or rather our youngest one has gotten more involved in hockey. So they're all three in different places at different times. So we just kind of make it work. But it's really just been a support for each other whenever we had the opportunity. When she had the opportunity to go from an independent consultant, 1099 work, to jump into creating a business and getting having employees, prime contracts. I think I was your general counsel, your subcontract manager, a lot of the back office finance stuff there for a while. So, you know, little extra duties that I could provide. And I think I got a lot of free advice from, you know, my contract shops and stuff like that at my firm. But, you know, it was whatever we could do to support each other. And so, you know, I think none of this can be successful really on your own. You will find, I think, you know, outside of even, you know, marriage or stuff, as you're going through your business career, you'll find a mentor in whatever line of work that you're doing. You'll rely on advice and career advice and build those relationships, and they can learn from whatever you can from those relationships. And, you know, those are the kinds of, you won't be able to do it just by yourself. And relying on others and having that support function, I think, is something that's critical. And you know, I couldn't ask for more support or a better partner than Jill. So, so did I answer? There you go.
I think a special round of applause. Next time we'll do is a family panel. Other questions? Do you have any online questions? Keep an eye out. We do, just make sure. Otherwise, show of hands in the room. The next one here. All right, and then we'll do next year.
Thank you for taking the time to come out tonight. So I imagine for your prime contracts, you know, you're not the only company bidding to receive these jobs. So because you're a small family-run shop, what would you say sets yourself apart? I know, of course, it's probably a great community feel, but what does it look like when a big company takes a chance and hires a smaller firm like yourself? What would a day-to-day look like for your client facing you guys?
So that's a two-parter. The first is kind of how we go through the procurement process, and and then the second part was, what does it look like day to day? Okay, so my perspective is all from the federal government contracting perspective. So back to that federal acquisition regulation, depending upon how requests for proposal come out from the government is how we focus our response. If it's a small business set aside, which the government has very specific rules, and they promote small business and want to give give small businesses the right opportunities to bid on, to enable their success. So sometimes bids are set aside for small business. Sometimes they're even further whittled down to women-owned small business, which we are, service disabled, veteran-owned small business, hub zone, and then so if it's whittled down to women-owned small business and we bid on that, you know, then we check that box. Then I have a pretty good file of intel on my competitors in that space, depending upon the client organization or the particular type of work they're asking for. So after, it's similar to, as you would in any industry, kind of know your competitors, know who's probably bidding on the same work, and then you take a look at the evaluation criteria that the government is going to use to make their decision. They're very upfront about that. They have to be, that's part of the rules of engagement. And you can either, they can either be looking for the bid that is lowest price technically acceptable, the one that is the best value to them. They'll tell you what they mean by best value. So we appeal to what they're looking for. Every bid is custom. The government tells you what they want, and you've got to figure out a way to not only tell them that you can do it, tell them you've done it here with past performance and you've been successful, and then, oh, by the way, try and meet them on the evaluation form that they're going to use to rate you. So it's a bit of tailoring of your response to try to be the most competitive and then win. And so when we are lucky enough to win, we usually have a client kickoff meeting, and they meet the team, and we get started. Again, they're very directive with the rules of engagement. We work for a performance work statement or a statement of work that they give you and say, this is what we want, this is what we expect you to do. And then we go in and we do it for them. Hopefully we really wow them, and we'll get add-on work as a result, or a very positive evaluation, and we'll use that when we go to our next bid and say, oh, look what we did over here. We did it so well. And wouldn't you like to have us come and do that for you too? Is that helpful?
And a hand over there, I think. Yep.
Awesome. So knowing what you know now, when you established your business, what is one thing or a few things that you wish you could have done before you started your company?
I wish I would have had a more thoughtful name to my company that had like a good story that I could tell when I meet people. Gosh, aside from that, in all seriousness, I don't know that I would change too much because everything has been kind of an iterative learning process for me. And that's what's kept me in it so long, frankly. There were times, I remember specifically around year 8 and 9, and that's, had been in business 8 or 9 years, I was getting anxious, antsy, wasn't sure that this was what I wanted any longer. I had had a few difficult clients that I had been working with, and when it's your business and they're not so positive, I took it very personally. And so it was it'd been a challenging couple of years client-wise, and I just wasn't sure if I was really in it for much longer, but I was getting close to being in business 10 years. I was like, I'm going for 10. I want to be able to say I had my own business for 10 years. So kind of at year 9.5, we started to see more opportunities for leadership development contracts, and they were coming with a coaching component. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to be selling this and responding to these RFPs and trying to sell and convince the government to come work with us on leadership development, I should learn more about this coaching thing. So I went and I got myself certified as a coach, and that was an unbelievable experience. Becoming a coach is a very introspective type of experience. I hadn't had that in a long time. I hadn't kind of done that kind of work and self-discovery and while you're learning all the coaching competencies and all that. So I became a coach, started doing some coaching, and then boom, I was right back in. So we started doing some more work that had the coaching component. Sometimes I do the coaching, sometimes I don't, but it certainly kind of got me kickstarted again. And then I looked up one day and now we're at year 15. So it's definitely been an iterative process. It hasn't always been easy or fun, but it's definitely what I'm committed to now. I can't imagine doing anything else. I can't imagine working for anyone else because the flexibility that I have enables all of this to kind of go around too. So I could never, I don't think I could ever work for someone else again at this point. And I couldn't leave this industry because I know too much about it and have been through too many, too much experience to want to learn it again somewhere else. And it has been very, very, very rewarding.
Other questions? Go ahead, read it out. Yep.
It says, as an entrepreneur, how do you have any tips for starting your organization, just like starting?
Yeah. So there are a lot of, so speaking from a government contracting perspective, there are a lot of resources available for people that want to start their own business. The Small Business Administration is chock full of resources. And then kind of locally too, I know that George Mason University has an organization called the PTAC, and they like to get kind of small growing businesses and mentor them. Dan talked a bit about mentoring. There are lots of government organizations that have a mentor protege program where you can join that program. Usually you have to have a little bit of experience and kind of understand your core capabilities if you want to do that. So taking advantage of those programs that are in place to help small businesses and new businesses grow, because they're usually either funded or staffed or supported by people that really want to help and really want to contribute to the next generation's success or the next entrepreneur's success. I am always happy to talk to other small businesses that have questions or would like resources or want to know how I did a particular thing, whether it's health insurance benefits or whether I did this annual compliance thing the right way. And so I'm always happy to talk to other smalls, and because I recognize they don't have a lot of time either, and support them in growing. And I have found that many other entrepreneurs, we all kind of have that. We kind of know what it's like to be in it by yourself. And so when you can be in it for someone else and help them out with an answer or a time-saving tip or something, we're happy to give it to you because we've either gotten it at a time when we really needed it and we're happy to pay it forward, or we know how beneficial that would be. So taking advantage of people that have been there, done that, because they truly do want to help you kind of figure it out. It can be lonely to be a small business owner. There's not, when you don't have a big leadership team, there's not a lot of people that you can confide in, which is why I'm lucky to have my husband in the industry, because he's gotten a lot of earful many a time. Because you have when your team works for you and supports you, you can't always tell them the things that are keeping you up at night, or the things that the challenges that you're really facing inside and wrestling with. So it can be kind of lonely. And that's also a benefit of having a mentor, so that you can kind of talk those things through with them. And then I also, the first time I got an executive coach was when I was going through transitioning from doing full-time client service delivery to just managing a business, because I kept working for clients for many years, probably 6 years or 7 years, while the business was growing organically, through me and through my team. So when I was making that transition, I had a coach kind of work with me on making that transition from teammate to principal, because it is a bit of a transition when you're used to being kind of in the weeds in the trenches with your team for so many years, and you have to take a different perspective. But there are resources out there to kind of help in any kind of stage of your business.
Are there any other questions? What we'll do then, if it's okay with you, just, I know some people would like to come up and ask you personally then. So let's give a warm round of applause and thank you. So anybody who would like to just come on down and you could ask questions, and the rest of you will see you next time. Thank you for that. This is exactly what I hoped for.